We got threatened by somebody for that he was going to show up to my office and beat me up. Then you sell them the pen. I don't waste my time selling to people who don't want to buy. I leave that for fucking amateurs like you.
If you're not completely uncomfortable every day, you're not trying hard enough.
It's remarkable what people will put in text and like don't realize that it's now printed forever.
Even bikini photos, things like that. I have a process in my office that I will not add my staff on social media.
I declared I'm done. I'm done with this. I can't handle it. I'm done.
Insurance dudes are on a mission to escape being handcuffed by our agencies.
How? By uncovering the secrets to creating a predictable, consistent, and profitable agency sales machine.
I am Craig Pretzinger.
I am Jason Feldman.
We are agents.
We are insurance dudes.
I'm Nick Champion. So I've been the owner of Champion Insurance Agency. I started my time in corporate America, running up through the ranks of field sales leadership, and did that for a couple years. Kind of figured out that all my ideas worked, and said that there's more upside if you go ahead and go into business for yourself. So we started that in March 2017. Started with 2 people, built it up to 16 employees now. We're going to probably be about $14 million in premium by the end of the year, and generally hit most of the top awards. So nice to meet you guys.
Yeah. What's your name?
Nick Champion.
And you are?
The owner.
An insurance dude.
An insurance dude. God.
Boom!
Run it back.
You are an insurance dude.
And what's the crazy story?
Probably the craziest story that I can think of is we got threatened by somebody for that he was going to show up to my office and beat me up because his rate went up. And so we had to then go ahead and call corporate compliance on it. And then he said that a bunch of racist things, and then followed that up with, I'm not racist because I have friends of that nationality. And I was just like, dude, we can just stop talking. Like we're good.
Not helping.
Find insurance elsewhere. It's okay. It's not personal, but please stop calling and trying to cuss me out. I'm done. So, just more negative. I mean, I've had situations where, unfortunately, I believe there's been a couple of policies where somebody's been killed, but nothing really intentional. So no wild and crazy ones. Things that just happen in our industry that are unfortunate. But that was probably the craziest one. Got my blood pressure the highest.
That's nuts, dude.
Things that make you go,
Was he married?
Divorced, and I bet you can guess.
Shocking.
And we also, well, let's just put it this way. Yeah, there were signs. So
yeah,
wow.
Oh,
happy to be rid of that one.
Have you ever gotten the nude photos from the gentleman in the old?
No, I watched the last podcast about the guy who got the picture, and they canceled his policies, and then he got sued. No, thankfully that's not happened. We have had several customers try to hit on staff that are on the public text message that everyone can see. I think I've only stepped in one time for that when that happened, but yeah, besides that, most people have been okay about it.
Yeah.
It's remarkable what people will put in text and like don't realize that it's now printed forever. Like forever.
Yeah.
Time stamped. Like, yeah, we've had a couple gentlemen send pictures, and I wasn't happy to see that.
Maybe it's a Midwest thing. We just haven't done that up here in Chicago yet. So that's I kind of appreciate that, and it's actually funny.
You should.
I mean, that's what you guys were talking about. What you said right before the podcast was some of that. One of the things that got brought up was people dressing on their own social media on their own time, and how do we interpret that as owners, and like what's our stance on it? And I try to be pretty modern in my way of thinking of these things. So at least in terms of staff conduct, as long as they're not actually like naked, it's none of my business. Quite frankly, even bikini photos, things like that. I have a process in my office that I will not add my staff on social media. They know that. If they want to add me, then I'll accept it, but I never actually add them. That allows them to kind of be the gatekeeper of whether or not they want to share that part of their personal life with me or not. Yeah. And that's always been the stance we have. You are not required. It's not a gimmick. It's not a game. So, but yeah, if you do post on that kind of stuff, it's none of my business. I don't know how you guys feel about with your staff, but
I don't exert much control over them. I think that you give them more autonomy and the right resources, that they're going to be in a much better place, right?
Yeah. I what's funny is I heard you guys talking about that when I came in, and I was thinking about when I first started, I actually did care. There was a point that I did care. I did want to friend them. I wanted to make sure that they didn't represent the agency. And then fast forward to now, currently previously having like a big staff and stuff, getting past that initial first staff that I had that I was worried about it. It didn't matter to me. Like it didn't matter to me. There is almost no impact. I think, we never really promoted our team on social media, but I guess if you did promote your team, so I guess for me, it's like, there's a million ways to skin that cat. It would matter if you were heavily like Nicholas Saka. Like I know he's so much on social media, and I know he's promoting his team. Maybe I would care if I was doing more of that angle.
I think I just keep it the high level stuff. So again, like I do have it in my handbook that if you're caught bullying, harassing, just being a terrible human being, even if you don't represent yourself as part of the office, it's in our handbook that I can fire you for that. Because I just don't want terrible people working for me. That came up with an agent friend once, and I was like, well, we're just going to go ahead and add this to the handbook real quick. Because, they weren't holding themselves out there as part of it, but they were literally bullying and harassing somebody.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is a little bit more interesting, especially in the political environment, I couldn't care less if you're Democrat or Republican. I really don't. People have asked me, though, like, well, what if your staff says something about Trump or something about Harris?
Yeah.
What people could get mad at the office. And my stance on that is I'm pro First Amendment. You're right to speak and have an opinion and all that. And so again, as long as you don't fall into that bullying and harassing and things like that, if you exercise your freedom of speech, it's none of my business. And by the way, it's never come up from a customer, but if they did, I would tell them straight up, is like they are allowed to, on their own personal time, to express their own views, as long as it's not at somebody else's detriment. You could say some horrible things. I won't even give them credence here. But like one example that I think everyone can universally agree with, right? It's not okay that Trump got shot. And none of my staff said so. But if somebody said, I wish he would have died, then that would have been a disciplinary action, something like that, because like, that's not okay. That's not appropriate. And like that crosses the line. Some stuff like that, like, but your opinions on which president to vote for is none of my business. And you can exercise that in your free time.
As long as you don't vote for that Harris lady.
Well, yeah.
And I'm not being serious, but I am.
Yeah. My whole stance on that too is I'm very pro voting. I don't tell anybody. I waited for like there to be a lull in the political discourse, and I was like, okay, please make sure you register to vote. Here's your link, and please do not talk about politics to anybody in the office, and just remember that you do have a couple hours in the handbook to go vote. Please go vote. Send. Yeah. I'm like, I hope this is like not we have like 5 minutes of breathing that I could send that out where somebody wouldn't think I was being biased.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's actually really commendable and responsible to do it that way. And it's hard, like sometimes, because people, some people are going to go, he won't, whatever, right? There's always going to be somebody that disagrees with you no matter what. Yeah. And I think that's about the fairest that you can be. I would say that I don't really think I have a outward policy on it, but I align with what you're saying. And I think that it's good to give them, we don't need to be controlling people. They work for us, and we need to get a return on investment for that, the person that we bring on. Right. But controlling them, I mean, I think it becomes an ego problem when you have to dictate what they can or can't say. And that's why you want to work in an agency and not at some big giant corporation that they do control you. Right. So
I 100% agree. But if we're talking agent to agent, that's an entrepreneur, and you vote for Harris, you're out your damn mind. So I will say that because I feel like, I have some sort of responsibility because I like being an entrepreneur. Personally, I don't want to take it from me.
I mean, it's a no-brainer if you're an entrepreneur. I mean, I'm sorry. It's like, well, do I want to make half as much? No. It's a
And that's
no
what it
brainer.
comes down to.
Do I
for
want
us.
some tax cuts? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I think there are some ones expiring, right? So
Yeah.
I think
What a bummer.
I think in
I wouldn't
January-
mind.
what interesting timing that it was that they expire right at the right time.
yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff our country does, but yeah.
Yeah. So if you're an agent, get out there and vote.
Vote.
Get out there
Unless-
and vote. I don't care
Unless
which direction.
you're going to vote.
Unless you're voting. Yeah.
All right, we'll get off that stuff.
I had to stir it a little bit, you know?
You did. I mean, you could tell Nick's a little uncomfortable.
Dude,
No,
Nick,
I'm just kidding, man.
first off, I
Yeah.
love your last name.
Thank you.
Like that's been through the lineage. You're a bunch of champions.
So the rumor goes is that about 7-8 generations ago, we had a French last name, and you didn't need to sound French or foreign in any way when you came over to the States, and so they changed to Champion. I don't know why they picked it. I think it's
It might have been champagne or
yeah.
mushrooms like
so the
champagne.
rumor goes it was something like Chevrolet or something like that. I don't know, but they picked Champion, and it's been that way. So I will tell you, it was a name that got a lot cooler as I got older. It was not so great to have as a young kid, but it got cooler as I got older.
They were just haters because you were already
They
a
were
champion.
haters.
And I can't tell you how many times, too, I've submitted for our internal pleas for my email to be champion@blank.com, and they deny it every single time. And
Oh yeah, why would you want something
Oh.
awesome as your email?
I even brought it up to one of our executives. I was like, come on. I was like, I don't mean to pull in my card for this, but it would be cool. So can you make it happen? So they're actually working on it. So we'll see.
It's my name.
Yeah, I was like, it's not a nickname. It's actually. So yeah, that's so actually, as the Champion Insurance and everything like that, it actually helped because a lot of people. Yeah, I got this designed on Fiverr, the logo, which turned out really great. And no, it's not Stratton and Oakman or whatever the Wolf of Wall Street one was. Although I can see the comparison. Everything that I've ever branded for the office has been Champion Insurance because I did want to treat it like it was going to be scalable operation. So I think if you make it Nick Champion Insurance, everybody wants to talk to Nick, right?
Yeah.
But if you make it Champion Insurance, you make it generic. It is my last name, so it's not like that confusing. It's not that hard. So, we've had a few people who's like, what does that mean? It's the agency owner's last name. And I go,
Yeah.
oh. Like they think there's some big gotchas, like champions of what? I'm like, no, it's his last name. But I don't put myself out there because also like as scalable, I think one of the things that a lot of insurance agents have a hard time doing is going from 2 people to 16 people like we did, that they still have to be involved in every transaction, every phone call, every review, and they have a hard time letting go. I'm a big fan of the Gary Vaynerchuk idea of 80% of you is better than 0% of you.
It's my favorite.
Right. So, but having at least the name Champion Insurance, so it wasn't me, it wasn't Nick Champion Insurance. People were able to transition over to talk to customer service or now managers that we have without feeling as slighted because some people don't even know my name, like my first name.
Yeah.
They don't even realize I'm the agency owner until my photo shows up on their email.
That's what's going on over here too.
It's a good thing.
I wish, like when I first bought the agency, the guy that I bought it from said, "Hey, you can just keep my name on it. Don't worry about it." And I'm like, I like, first of all, I was suspicious. I'm like, oh, what's he trying to do? And, he was like, listen, you don't want your name on it. And of course, I'm like, yeah, I do. It's my business. I will, ego. And here are, there's still people, I'm going to cancel if I don't get to talk to Craig. It's like, well, sorry.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we've had those too. And I've said, if that's your stance, then I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, you should leave. You should find somebody who service you. And again, it's not personal. It's not trying to be mean. It's just that like, in order to run the operation, like we've got 4,000 households. Like I can't talk to everybody. I physically can't. I wouldn't be able to move. Yeah. Right. And so you only get to really interact with me in my office if stuff hits the fan. So if like a claim doesn't go perfect, you want me freed up to be able to jump on with claims and get your extra siding, your extra roof paid for, or advocate for you. And quite frankly, there are run the business things I have to do that have nothing to do with an individual policy that, I am a believer, though, of changing the name when you buy an office. I know some people say, oh, leave the name and all that kind of stuff. I disagree with it. Even if you rebranded it to something generic.
That's what I should have done.
Like just
Arizona Insurance.
People are, exactly. People are going to leave anyway. So like the idea of like, oh, they'll stick around if there seems to be continuity with the name. I think it ends up becoming a legacy that like 5 years later doesn't make a lot of sense. So I've recommended to other agents when they've brought that up, I'm like, change the name. Nobody will care anymore.
I feel like I was lost in the woods for many years and not realizing which levers to pull were so much more important than the others. And you just made me think of the whole retention thing, right? Like there's this, oh, I got to do this for the retention. In order to do this, oh my God, we need more retention specialists. And it's like, if you really put like, and I know you have too, and I know Jason has here, if you really calculate like the 1% difference, even on a $16 million book or 12 million or 9 million, whatever it is not a lot, right? You're definitely not hiring somebody that's going to get the money back by saving 1% or whatever. It just the math doesn't work.
Right.
And it's like taking those resources and putting them on the front door is much, much more profitable, right? You're going to get a lot better return on that.
I also have a theory in general that a lot of these agents that are for sale, they're not doing, and in a lot of cases, they're not active as much. And so I've noticed, like, we only bought one book. We were going to buy a second book. Doesn't seem like it's working out. But the one we did, when we answered the phone, it weirded people out. So they're like,
it wasn't the loser insurance.
I'm like, we bought out the other guy, and we have more staff now. Oh, well, I need to make a change. And that was it. It was like, okay. And they're like, we had a few people. So one of my second best salesperson used to be a hybrid and did both. And so they'd be like, I want to talk to her. It's like, she's not available. Oh, well, if I can't talk to her, I'm going to cancel because that's the person I interact with. Okay. Sorry to see you go. Like, she's just not available because I needed her to focus on sales. And by the way, she came over writing $10,000 a month and now writes $35,000 to $40,000 a month. If it's an average month, she had our agency record at $89,000 for a month, which was insane. I think that was just July. So that was not that long ago. It was July. So
incredible.
Right. Could you imagine if I still let her service accounts and she was at, say, 15,000, right? So it's like, no, I think we replaced the few customers that said that they were going to leave if they couldn't interact with her. Yeah. So, and people stop asking, by the way, too. You train customers get the idea eventually anyway. At the end of the day, too, I think a little bit differently about my agency than a lot of people do. And they would say, oh, you have to be the neighborhood agent. You got to be the neighborhood guy. You got to know everybody. You got to know their cats and dogs' names.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I've always been of the approach is like, no, we're not a small town agency. No, we're not doing that. I'm not trying to be controversial, but if you think the agency, the local agent model still works, it is a dying breed. It just doesn't know that it's dead yet, is my opinion. I think that people at the end of the day will deal with an agent who's effective, good, follows up, delivers on what they say, even if they're not their best friend, even if they think they're an asshole, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
or somebody you really like who doesn't do their job.
The technology that was alive when the neighborhood agent was born or was operating is microfiche and mailing the policy. Like they would write. I mean, you're probably too young. Like they had these things called pens and this other thing called paper, and they would write on it. And then there'd be.
Hey, I inherited some of those files when I bought that book.
Yeah, I mean, I cleared out 35 file cabinets. With that first, I moved. Because the guy that hired or that brought me on to the company, which were the same one, he said you have to the management said you have to retain all these files.
Yep.
Going back in time, they just wouldn't have come with the purchase, right? But they did, and
mandatory that you shred these.
No, I had to store them. So I had to lug all these things over to a storage facility. They sat in there for 5 years, and really only because I didn't want to go back there and pull them out and then go shred them.
I did do that. So I pulled them out, I put them into a pile, and then I subcontracted to a company who has like the garbage bags. And then I ended up bringing one filing cabinet that generally had less than 5 years on it. We didn't open that cabinet one time in 5 years. And so when I moved out again, I was like, all this gone. Like
somehow it got lost in the move.
Well, your record retention is 5 to 7 years, right? I think it was 5 years. So like way I figured it, I was like, everything's above 5 years. So
yeah, everything's in the freaking internet now.
Yeah. I just shredded it all immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, after the 7 years, of course.
Right. Legally
I waited no time. Just like
It's never come up. We didn't open the cabinet one time to look for one file, not once.
Yeah.
So my first year, I did open the file. I was trying to find, I couldn't find anything. I didn't know what the hell I was looking for to like half the time. And I was like, everything was already in the system that I needed. And so I just.
Or the few times you have to find an appraisal, they go, do you have this? And you go, no, that was written before we took over the office. And they go, okay. And then they pay me.
Yeah, right.
It's never been a problem where I've gotten yelled at. The one time I heard somebody getting yelled at once is they made a change on it. Like they adjusted the amount, but didn't make sure the appraisal was in the file. And so they got an errors and omissions out of that. But that's because you touched the item. You adjusted it and didn't, and now you're responsible for it. So if you haven't like touched it, I've never heard of them paying, like forcing an E&O. So
yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, you guys didn't put it in the file.
So you did it when you started, you were the neighborhood agent, right? You were in the trenches. You were never in the trenches.
No. So I was in the trenches. We started March 2017. It was me and two other people. One of them is still with me. She's actually my top salesperson, which is great. She met me at an old Pizza Hut that retrofitted to a cafe and I said, hey, in a month and a half, we're going to start this agency. We're going to have no clients, but I got some really cool ideas. And she onboarded. I have no idea why. Go ahead.
Was it a combination of Pizza Hut and Taco Bell?
No, it was an old cafe, but it ironically was. I know I'm giving up a security question for myself, but it was ironically where I had my first job. So, but they had changed it to a cafe.
Oh, they're so much closer to hacking all your stuff now.
Go ahead. I don't think I've used that one for a security question in years, but yeah, that's it's actually where I got my start. Sidebar, by the way, what's the first product you ever sold? I'll start so you guys have a minute to think of it. But my first product I ever sold was jalapeno que-papas at Pizza Hut. I was the district leader for selling it. People would call in. I was 16. I had no sales training. And people were like, oh, well, what do you, I was like, well, it's these cheesy tater tots. It got jalapeno and they're pretty good. Do you want me to add it to your order? No sales training. It just seemed like a good idea. And I was the district leader. So I got like a little t-shirt. Do you guys know what the first product you sold was?
Do you mean like legitimately, like with a company?
Yeah,
like as a kid, I had a cookie stand and did all kinds of shit when I was a kid. But first real job, I guess, was I sold cars.
There you go.
You went right. You went right into the belly of the beast.
22. Yeah, 22. Right before I got married. So. That was gnarly. I did it for 8 months. I got salesman of the month a couple times, made a bunch of, did pretty well, but 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. It was shitty. And you're a car salesman. No offense, car salesman.
Hey, we're insurance salesmen.
Dude,
we're even worse.
Yeah, we're insurance dudes. That's just as bad, man.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is.
My first would be Starbucks, but I wasn't really selling anything. I mean, the product kind of sold itself. So I would say the first service that I sold was I did graphic design, and I was the worst salesperson on the planet. I didn't get paid much, put it that way.
I got a t-shirt, so I didn't get paid much either, but they gave me a t-shirt. I wish I still had that, by the way. I did throw it away. I wish I still had it. I didn't think I'd be getting into sales. I thought I'd be a finance guy.
I think when you're younger, you're so focused on the wins and on like quick that you're not thinking about like this. You don't have strategy. You don't have this way to think the right way. At least men don't, typically when we're younger. And, you get to where we are. And now it's like, I don't even consider a conversation with somebody a sales conversation. It just naturally is going to get to the solution that I have if they have a problem, right? Like so that's a little funny insight. Anyway, that's funny how
Hey, I will say on that, like we were talking about my sales staff. They're like, hey, you got to try to close these. The ones that can be closed, you should just try to close them sooner. If you're going to close them in a week from now with several follow-ups, so you can close them right now, you might as well close them right now. And so I had a nephew of a friend call me and he's like, hey, I'm with Big Red. They've been increasing my rate. I said, let's run through it real quick. 5 minutes later, I was like, yeah, we're saving you $1,200 a year. There's going to be no follow-up on this. I was like, so I need your credit card and what's the name of the agent? We'll just go ahead and call. We'll just three-way call him right here. In 18 minutes, start to finish, he was bound, set up, pushed over, canceled the other policy. But it was I mean, I know you're joking, but like, it's kind of like that. It's like, listen, we're not going to waste time of doing the semantics of, would you like me to email this to you so you can review it?
Yep.
No,
I
we're
think
just
you
going
just
for the
get it.
kill.
You get in your head as this, like, you're so concerned about this, like they're gonna say no and the close, and you're instead of just doing right, like you ran through it and it's either going to be yes or no, and you're okay with either way, and you're going to throw it there. You're going to say let's go for it, and that's it. But like I remember like white knuckling, especially selling cars. You do the whole thing, 2 hours long, showing them the shit, going on a drive, and then you get back and then it's like, oh God, here we go, and you start freaking out, thinking about like you got to try to close them. And it's I think the way that it's framed makes it intimidating when you don't have experience doing it. And then we get older, we realize, oh, it's really not the close. I mean, it's just being able to talk with them, right? Being able to ask the right questions, and they buy.
And I think it's just a totally different mindset when it's just ask for the damn sale. And if they say no, say why, and say, well, if that wasn't the case, would you buy it? And then ask for the sale again. Like it's so easy. Like I had a sales guy and he's so empathetic with people, and he didn't have sale for days, but he was doing all these quotes. And I'm like, dude, I already know it. I already know what's going on. You're not asking for the damn sale and shutting up. Like you have to ask for the sale and then shut your mouth, because I know this, that statistically, if you're running 6 quotes a day, you're going to sell a policy a day. If you just do that, you could say all kinds of random stupidness all before that. But if you ask for the sale and shut up 3 times on the phone call conversation, you're going to close 1 out of 6 of those, guaranteed, right, even if you're completely out of your mind. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, I guess I'm not asking for the sale. I'm like, I know you're not, dude. Like,
so
I don't have
start
to
doing that.
Yeah, that's it. It's so easy that it's ridiculous. Like,
right. Unless he was starting the phone call off with, hey, are you sure you want to quote? He could have been doing that.
Yeah.
So can I give you guys an interview question that I definitely do for candidates?
I would love it.
Ooh, everybody's kind of used to it. So it's a cliche, but we do it a different way. So the whole sell me this pen thing.
Yeah.
So I couldn't care less about your answer. I really don't. But
Sure.
you could tell me that it writes upside down, it cures cancer, whatever the case is. Or I don't care what your answer is. If I were to ask you, are you coachable? You would say absolutely. In fact, I've had interviews where they say, you know what? I prefer hard coaches because I really want to get to that next level.
Yeah.
And we go, all right, we'll see. So in the interview, we go through and we do blah, blah, blah. And it's like, all right, we're going to ask some questions here. So sell me this pen. I know it's cliche. Like, I don't even say it. I know it's cliche, but sell me this pen. And they'll tell me whatever answer they want. And I'll literally, as directly and abruptly as I can. So they'll tell me, it's the best pen ever. Great. That's not the right answer. The right answer is, how long have you been in the market looking for a pen? Which, by the way, is the correct answer to that scenario. And then I see how they react. Because if you say you're coachable and I say, hey, I'm about to coach you, you'll respond very positively. But if you're not expecting to be coached and you're coached, I get to see how you actually react. So you're giving me this question thinking I'm like taking notes on what you're writing and judging that. No, I couldn't care less. And then I snap you with sometimes I'm busy, and that's how direct it'll be. And if you break down, melt down, and have oh my God, I can't believe I'm so frazzled, you're probably not going to make it here. You're not coachable. You say you are, but you're not. But the people who go, well, probably because if they don't need the pen, I shouldn't sell it to them. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. And by the way, if they've seen that scenario and they get it right, I'll say, hey, I need to talk to my spouse. What do you say? You're going to mess that up. Or, hey, can you email me the quote, which absolutely is an objection. I don't care if you say, this quote is the best thing I've ever seen. I'm pretty sure this is the solution to world peace, and I'm naming my children after you. Email me the quote. It's still an objection.
Right. Emails like, but.
Yeah. So it will if you get that one right, because you've been through sales training and you've seen it, we'll keep going on to one that you stumble, and then again give you the right answer, but in a very direct way to see how you respond.
Yep.
It's my best measure of finding out if you're actually going to make it and if you're actually coachable or not.
What questions would your spouse have?
Yeah.
So mine on that, and again, this is probably a Coke and Pepsi. You can have a couple different ways to approach this. My best way on the I need to talk to my spouse is like fantastic. First step of sales is agree. I'm a Grant Cardone fan. Not everything. No, I don't believe that they control the weather and the government. That's bunch of crazy stuff going on right now. But at any rate, in terms of his sales techniques, just like I quoted Jordan Belfort, I mean, quite frankly, some of this pen is kind of branded as his thing. I like the skills. I don't like the man. There's a separation, separate the art from the person, right? But for the spouse one, fantastic. I talk to my spouse about everything. Let me send you the quote real quick so you can see it on your side. I'm going to text it to you real quick, pull it up real quick. Hey, real quick, let's just go through it one more time. Make sure I haven't missed anything silly that you're going to want to have fixed, right? What am I forcing them to do? To open up the quote and actually look at it, because now they're not playing Clash of Clans on their phone anymore, right? So they actually have to look at it, because we're going to go through it. Hey, was there anything that you think is being missed? Jason, you know your spouse better than anyone. What do you think that they're going to be looking for? Is it the savings or is it the coverage? And the objection you actually get is from the individual.
Yep. 100%.
So I play the game that you definitely do have your spouse to run this through, but then I play it just as like, oh, well, you know them better than anyone. What are they going to be looking for?
Yeah, because you and I both know, and I have a lot of guy friends. No, there's not one guy on the planet that can't switch insurances without telling their spouse.
Yeah.
That's the stupidest.
Yeah, just a heads up. Like, hey, honey,
not real.
They were saving me $1,000, so I went ahead and switched our stuff. Like, that's
there isn't a man on the planet that would risk not getting laid tonight by saying, "Hey, honey, can we talk about our insurance tonight?"
Yeah. My wife's like, I don't care. I don't even want to know.
No eggplant emoji down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Done. It's over.
Dude, I think what you should add to the Jordan Belfort interview is yelling at them. Like, be really, no, I'm serious. Be really cool and say, sell me the pen. And they start to sell you it. And then you just say, what the hell are you doing? Don't sell me that. And then see if that they can overcome that.
Do you want to know from the interview? Have you seen the interview where he talks about it? The real story, like where they had it, was the guy who ended up playing Jonah Hill's like composite character. Apparently he walks in during the interview and he's like, whatever his name was, he goes, sell me this pen. And he's like, how long you been in the market for a pen? He's like, I'm not in the market for a pen. And he takes the pen and he chucks it at the person who's being interviewed. And he says, then you sell them the pen. I don't waste my time selling to people who don't want to buy. I leave that for fucking amateurs like you. And he walks out.
Now that's good.
Right.
I like that.
So that's the real story. So yeah, we don't go that intense.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like scaring people, because here's the thing. That's the real thing, right? That's the real thing on the phone. Like for salespeople, and this is what I told my dude the other day, was like, dude, if you're not completely uncomfortable every day, you're not trying hard enough. Like you need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Push yourself. Like the second you're comfortable, you're not a salesperson.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
It's exactly what we're doing in my office right now. We're talking about a lot of processes and trying to get everything to hum the right way. And like, hey, I want everything, whatever's the right process, we're all doing. Like, I think one of the things that I've said is people get confused when they talk to me. I'm very confident. I'm borderline cocky. Like I get it. I have a lot of belief in what I'm able to accomplish. But at a moment's notice, if your idea is better, I will drop what I'm doing and start doing it your way. And I think that's what a lot of people don't expect. And so my approach with the office has been exactly that. I don't care who comes up with the best idea. If it's the best idea, we're all doing it. We're all going to stop what we're doing and we're doing your idea.
I love it.
No, it's funny. I've thought about this a lot over the last few years, what's the difference between confident and being cocky? Like what's the difference between ego and being confident? And there's really not much.
Sure.
But there is the point of being able to be like, to like listen to others. Right. But like the only people
when you care where the answer comes from.
Yeah.
And the intent, your intent, I think is important.
Your intent. Yes. But I guess the point is like the only people that care are people that like if you walk into a room full of successful people, the other successful people don't go, well, that guy's so cocky. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? Like confidence, you need confidence. And as long as you're kind and you listen to other people, you don't have an ego. Don't worry about having an ego. People that worry about having an ego aren't confident.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Tell it too. When we meet agents at these places, the ones who act like they're better than you because they did X, Y, or Z, it's like, I just don't have time for you. I can't have people like that in my life. Not voluntarily.
Right.
There's still a car sales.
Right. And it's like, dude, I don't care. I'm so glad you're best in company. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
What a ridiculous title.
So what do you, looking back when you had the two people at the beginning,
Sure.
right? When you first started and now, why don't we talk a little bit about the difference in, I know obviously different size agents, different size staff, all that kind of thing. But how was that transition? What was it like, moving and scaling up?
Yeah. So
one of the things that agents can do.
So one of the first approaches that we did was, I think you should pay yourself last. Like, I'm a big believer in that. 2017, I made $7,000 total. 2018, so that was December to January. I made $7,000. Actually, the intent was to make zero. That was $7,000 of the dog has what vet bill? Okay, I guess I'll take some money out to cover that. But yeah, we shrunk all of our money down to my wife's income that she was making. And so that's what we lived on. So I reinvested in. But what that allowed us to do by not taking out the money was when we took a small rate decrease, it was like 5%. And I was like, instead of hiring just one other person, I think I need to hire two people. And we tripled the size of the business in 2018 from that one decision. So instead of paying myself $30,000 a year salary, I paid somebody else $30,000 a year salary. That person actually became my office manager. Which is great. So he's still with us. He probably can hear everything I'm saying through the wall right now. But I think paying yourself less allows it. When I was a sales leader, I used to work with agents. I remember there was one agent who I came in and she's like, I don't have any money for marketing. And it was like her first year or second year in the business. And I was like, really? I was like, curious, how much are you paying yourself? And they're like, oh, $5,000 a month. And I'm like, but you're not producing. Oh, well, I need to do that. I'm like, no, you don't. I was like, you would fire yourself at this income. And it's funny. I would talk to my peers and they're like, you said that to an agent? I'm like, it's the truth. Your marketing dollars are right there. You need to use that to build it up. And it's taking less upfront so you can take way more in the future. That's the idea of what being an entrepreneur is all about. And I just think it's the right advice. Please don't pay yourself a lot. I mean, $7,000 year one, $30,000 year two, but $12,000 of that was our down payment for our house. No, sorry, $18,000 of it was down payment for the house. And then, so I made $1,000 a month for the second year, $35,000 year three. Then I upped my income when I was able to hit other bonuses and things like that. So again, it allowed me to reinvest back into business and scale it up. And I think in the beginning, it's focusing on your staff. And the phrase I use, and I don't really use it anymore, but I said, I want to make sure your wallet is fat and happy. So if you, Mr. Salesperson, who gave up everything, you're working with me at scratch, if you're paid, if you're getting taken care of, you're probably going to go the extra mile. You're going to take the training and you're going to help me scale this up. And my numbers will take care of themselves down the road. So that was the only thing we preached was fat and happy. I would even tag them on a few of my friends' accounts. I don't do that anymore. But I would tag their numbers and just say, hey, I need you to get to your numbers. Momentum is a hell of a thing in what we do. Yep. So it was that approach of making sure they're writing and then slowly pulling that back where they were only doing their own numbers. And then when I write stuff, it just goes to the general coffers of the agency now. So you start off just training, making sure they're able to handle every situation. And then you start allowing them to participate in that. Oh, this person called in, they have this issue. Okay, so how do you think we should handle it? Well, I don't know. Okay, we should do X, Y, and Z, don't you think? Yeah, that works. Now call them. Do X, Y, and Z. Let me know how it goes. So you have to slowly start letting them do it so that you can be freed up to do other things. And then it was just hey, when the coffers got larger, it's oh, we can afford another person now. And we go hire another person. And it's there's too much service work now. We should go hire a service person now. And so it was just that discipline of just kind of being there and making sure the staff is successful. I can't imagine any other blueprint that allows you to scale up than besides purchasing, that doesn't start and end with making sure your staff is getting paid and making sure that they're successful.
100%. I think that's fantastic advice. It's almost like if you're a one-man shop, you're the salesperson, right? So your customer is the customer. But then when you move more into that ownership role and that operator role, then your team is your customer. Mm-hmm. So if your customer is not happy, then your agency's customer won't be happy because they're on the front lines. Yeah.
No, I'm a big believer in that too. It's oh, the customer is number one and the customer's always right. First of all, they're not. right? And that's not offensive. They're just not. But then like, yeah, who's your number one customer? It's like, it's got to be my staff. Like, I have to make sure they're taken care of. Now, again, if they make a mistake, that's completely different. Yeah, we'll own it. We've got an easy moniker here is what's the right thing to do, even if it's inconvenient. So if it's, so we had a situation yesterday where like apparently the wrong vehicle got removed from a policy, right? So you guys could maybe tell me. So in Illinois, you'll get a fine if you haven't had the vehicle insured. So it was like, well, should we add the vehicle back to, I think, June? Because it was removed by error, which there was no accident, thank God, right? But it's like, should we move it back to June and they'd have to pay all the premium, or should they pay the fine? The fine would be less. Which should we do? And I was like, guys, it's very simple. What's the right thing to do? And by the way, I know that sounds a little like altruistic and preachy of me, so I can hear myself as I'm saying this. But I was like, what's the right thing to do? And it was like, well, the fine would be less. I'm like, no, add it back to June. It was a mistake. He should have been paying the premium that whole time. So yeah, he's going to have to pay the difference, but it's the right thing to do because again, we have to, it's not, I guess, what was best for the customer in sort of a sense, but like we have to balance that. Like, what's the ethical thing to do? What's the thing to do with like the corporation? And I was like, add it back. And so what I've always said is like, you need to act like every action you do is in the center of Times Square and everyone's watching. And which one are you going to own up to?
Right.
100%.
And I'd rather tell the customer, hey, man, you always should have been paying it than saying, well, technically the fine's less, so let's sneak it in.
Yeah.
Right. As soon as you're saying sneak, then you're operating under integrity, right? Or below integrity. And then it's like now, and as soon as you open those floodgates, salespeople.
You do it once. Yep.
Yeah. It's the green light. Well, but yeah.
And again, I could hear myself how preachy that sounded, but the joke was after I said that, I was like, by the way, it was both my office managers in the room. And I was like, by the way, you guys are going to save me on a deposition one day. They're going to say, well, what does Nick tell you to do? And you're going to just fall back and just in your brain, you go, well, he says do whatever's the right thing. I'm like, you're going to save me in a deposition one day. They're like, yeah. Then one of them goes, you're going to get deposed? Why am I getting deposed? Don't worry about it. You can save me one day.
It's true though, man. I've learned so much in the last 8 years of doing this. And one of the things is like never compromise on your values whatsoever. Not even tiny, like even a little bit. And I mean that even like I've had team that I've kept on too long and that didn't treat my other team members in the way that I think that they should be treated. And some of the things that I would say that they did wrong would be so little, but it was against my values.
Yep.
And eventually it just created a situation that I just, looking back, wasn't proud to be a part of. So now I operate more in the sense of, can I be proud of the way my team runs? And if I'm proud of that and I'm putting that above profits, then I'm doing the right thing.
Yep. Yeah. Well, look what it does. You compromise values and integrity, then you're operating. Now you have to operate out of fear. And if you're operating out of fear, then you're operating in scarcity. And then shit just doesn't work, right? And it's
I like sleeping at night.
Yeah, 100%.
So, like it's also like you're the new agent and you have to take 5,000 because that's what I said. I'm going to take 5,000. It's like, well, now you're operating in scarcity because you have to have that. You're holding on to this 5,000, but guess what? That 5,000 is actually worth 20,000 because if you put it back in the business, it's 20,000, right? In 3 years, that's $20,000 of revenue. So what the hell are you doing? Like, let's 4 times it. I don't need the $5,000. I mean, you did, I did it. You did it where it's like, hey, honey, I'm not going to make much for the next year and a half or whatever. Are you good with that? I promise it's going to work out.
Dude, that's where my wife was awesome. She was just like, all right, whatever. There's 2 things. So one, I did remember the craziest thing that ever happened to us. Not just that. You were talking about staff. We had a staff member show up drunk. And I had a suspicion of it before, but couldn't really prove it. Like, it was just like, I don't know on this one, but this one was like, no, you're drunk. You need to go.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm escorting you out right now. There was a bar in our complex. So they left at 10 in the morning and went to the bar. And apparently, as the story goes, because a couple days later, I went over there for something else. Like the person who ran that bar was like the complex mom. Like she would, if you needed to know who to do your fire extinguisher, stuff like that, she was always the person you went to. So I was wondering, she goes, what the hell happened over there? I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, your girl came in here, she ordered 1 beer, didn't drink it at all, fell out of her chair, drunk. We had to pull her an Uber, pick her up, and put her in the Uber. And I was like, would you be willing to testify to that if I get an unemployment claim? And they're like, absolutely. And so it did come up on my unemployment thing too. They're like, so she was drunk and you just fired her. Yeah. They're like, did you get her tested? You want me to kidnap a drunk person and drive them 45 minutes to get their urine tested?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we were just wondering. I was like, I mean, I've got this story. They're like, yeah, we read the story. I was like, okay. They go, no, we're siding with you. I was just wondering. I'm like, what are you setting it up like this?
That is crazy.
Government. There you go. Government job.
They sided with me though. That's good. They didn't give her the unemployment. It was actually right when COVID hit and like everybody was getting an unemployment check. And I was like, no, I'm contesting this one because they said I fired it because I didn't have enough work to do. I was like, no, I didn't have enough work for drunk people to do. So in that sense, I guess she's right. The standard of living. So going back on the income and saying, honey, I'm not going to make a lot of money. There's a mortgage officer who works with us who loves this story. Has red bottoms. Do you guys know red bottoms? The shoes, Louis Vuittons. Apparently they're very fancy shoes. So you guys are in my camp, or I don't know and I don't care. So he comes up to me. He goes, "Yo, champ, check out these shoes." And he shows the soles, and
they were red.
They were red bottoms. And I went, and
okay.
And he goes, you don't know what they are, but your wife does. We were at a charity event because we're on the board together. And he goes, Lola, check out these shoes. And she goes, and he looks at me and goes, you lucky motherfucker. He's like, she really doesn't know, does she? I was like, we don't buy these things. I have no idea what you're talking about. So
that's so good.
We never put our standard of living to have, there are no, and again, I don't care if you do have them, but like we have no Gucci or Louis Vuitton in our house at all. It's just not what we're interested in. And so it's like, we have no idea what those are.
Yeah. That's funny, man.
And there's no ROI on that.
Oh no! And again, if you want it, like I'm a big believer. If you like it and you did it because you want it. So I'm a big Gary Vee fan. So like I don't want to like preach all the Gary Vee stuff. It's like, but if you bought the Mercedes because you want a freaking Mercedes, great. If you bought the Mercedes to impress your friends, you're an idiot. Like there's a complete difference there.
There is a complete.
I got the Model X so I could be faster than everybody, and it's very, very convenient to be able to pull in front of anybody in any situation and be okay. Like I could get anywhere fast, and I love it.
I do a manual transmission when I switched to Big Blue, and I was a sales leader. They give you a company car, and I almost got in an accident the first day I had it because I tried to squeeze in somewhere that with my manual transmission car I absolutely could have done, and it delayed. I went and went.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh. That would have been an awkward phone call.
Yeah.
So we know Craig drives a Model X. What do you drive?
So I have a Honda Civic, Honda Civic SI, so 2020, and then so it's manual transmission still. Ooh. And I have a motorcycle today too. So I am actually riding the motorcycle today.
Nice.
Rain helmet.
I've seen it.
That's awesome.
And it's my hair's at the longest that it's ever been, and Nick's is at the shortest. So.
Yeah, I shave it every like 3 days, so I just can't stand it being long.
Dude,
I declared I'm done. I'm done with this. I can't handle it. I'm done.
I would completely. So I did shave my head at one point, and my wife lost her mind because I look like Mr. Peanut or something. I'm short. I'm a little guy. So me with my head shaved, I looked weird, and
we went through that for about a year of not only. My wife saying, hey, I wish you would grow it out. And then also my mother saying the same thing, like, hey, your wife says she wants you to grow it out. And I went, it's not your head of hair. I'm not going to tell you how to wear yours, so you're not going to tell me how to wear mine. Then this is what I'm doing. And so
I like how she told you what your wife told you.
She was just an advocate.
Like, it was already, I didn't need to hear her say it. Now you're saying what she said.
You just look better like that.
Women love hair. It's hard to.
I mean, that's why
I hate it. Like I want to pick it all out. Like I don't like.
So
now that I have gray hair, it's like
I think it was Got to Be Glued was the gel I had. So I remember it was my first year running the agency, and I was putting on the fingertips, and I was doing a little full hop, and I was like, and I kept doing it and it wasn't going right. And I'm like, this is stupid. What am I doing? The next day.
I almost
really what happened.
last night. I almost took it and did it.
Yeah, I just had a moment. I just was like, I'm done.
That's awesome.
I'm just gonna go to the barber.
Yeah,
cool,
at home.
So you were one of the youngest FSLs, right? Because you're young right now, and you've been doing this for a long time in the insurance agency.
Yeah, at the time, I do believe I was the youngest in the country. I do think they've hired somebody since then that was younger than what I was, but at the time, I was the youngest FSL.
13?
How old were you?
I think I was 26. 26 when they gave me my market. Wow. Which was my favorite, by the way. And I don't know if this person watches the podcast, but apparently she went around to everybody saying, and I quote, because you guys don't mind swearing, "What the fuck is this motherfucker going to teach me about running my office? I've been doing this longer than he's been in diapers." And I went,
fun.
Well, thanks for giving me a shot. She's like, well, I like you now, so that's why I'm telling you. I'm like,
wow. Well, I guess being in that position, you were incredibly young and there's a lot of older agents back then, right?
Yes. So I think I crushed how coming on board because I've actually given this as advice to people, and I've given it as advice to the sales leaders. I was like, hey, do you want to know how to get credibility with your agents right away? They're like, sure. I'm like, listen, Mr. Agent. So if I came up to you, Jason, I'd be like, hey, I'm not going to try to tell you how to run your office. You've been doing this a long time. You don't need my advice on how to run an office. So I'm going to give you one thing of value. And if I can't give you a single thing of value, then I should find another job because I shouldn't even be here. And so can I try to give you one thing? Nice. And you'd be like, yeah, sure. All right, what do you got? And I would give you one thing. You'd be like, okay, that worked. What else you got? Yeah, I got this. I got this. I got this. And then it was all of a sudden I could go up and be like, hey, Jason, I need you to do these phone calls. I need you to call this monoline list. This is what the corporation's wanting. And you would do it because we built that credibility over time that like, hey, I do know what I'm talking about. But you start with one thing. I don't need you to impress you with everything. I need to add one thing of value, which, by the way, is the most fair ask in the world. If I cannot add a single thing of value, I should not be here.
Right.
So people have used that for, I give that as advice to people, like even to this day, to say, hey, that's how you onboard with a new team. Just try to start with one thing. You don't have to be, you don't have to think ahead of what it's going to be like in a year.
Yeah.
Yep. We like to overcomplicate things.
That is a tough position because from my experience with that position, they don't know much about running a business.
I've had
14
good ones.
different experiences with that position.
Yeah, I've had good ones. I've had bad ones. Quite frankly, I define a good one as nowadays that it's like, hey, I call you and I ask you for something. It means I've already looked. So please don't ask me, have I looked internally to try to find the answer? I have. I wouldn't come to you if I hadn't. And that you just try to follow through if I ask you for something. That to me defines as good. But that's also my need set isn't that large.
Right.
Whereas like other agents it is. And like that's totally fine. So I think it's hard. I think some sales leaders don't have the sense of like everyone's different and you need to interact with them differently based on their own needs.
Yeah.
And sometimes they have a problem with it. Like they actually told me I was going to fail when I onboarded. So that was fun. So I had been a failed sales leader. And so I switched over. And I was here and they're like, okay, so here's our plan for you. We're going to be here on this day, this day, this day, this day. I was like, guys, no offense. I was literally doing your job 3 months ago. I don't need that. I understand if I'm not hitting my numbers, you're going to hold me accountable. Fair play. But can I try first? That was the response. And I probably said something similar like that.
Yeah. And
they went around and told everybody I was arrogant and I was definitely going to fail. And this will tell you the age of the people giving me this criticism. He's too big for his britches. So they like took me off of market emails and I was like, hey, I was in Maryland when I was a sales leader. I was like, I just need to know the Illinois like nuances that are always going to be a little different. Like every state's slightly different. Yeah. And so those are mainly the things I'm going to ask you for. They took me off all communications until I finally said like, why am I not getting emails or anything? They're like, oh, you didn't want them. I was like, I did not say that. I said, I don't need you in my office. Those people got fired, by the way. And they said, I don't belong on advisory boards and all this kind of stuff. And now I'm on the advisory boards and whatnot. So, it all played out. So.
Was that Michael Jordan's old coach?
Right? Exactly. So, well, actually, that was the right thing to do for Jordan. It's what he needed.
He needed a chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, he needed to be
I mean,
told
maybe you did.
not enough.
I think you would have done well anyway, but the chip always helps.
Yeah, well, I had that from growing up, man. So I was smart, but I got bullied growing up, and so that whole "you'll never amount to anything" stuff, I was like, I got that in spades.
We're gonna amount to something.
Wow, that's so crazy. You got bullied even so the last name was a issue?
It wasn't really for my brother. He didn't get. I think it was. I needed to learn how to interact socially. So I'm smart. I graduated college with a 3.97 GPA, so I got 1B in college. Apparently,
I only got 1B too.
Apparently, 15-year-old me didn't realize if say, "Hey, Jason, what'd you get on the history test?" And you go, "I got a 72%." And I was like, "Yeah, man, I got a 98, and I fucking missed this one question because I knew the right answer and put the wrong thing." Apparently, that makes me less likable. So more or less, somebody had to point that out. Like, hey, you're doing interactions like this. Maybe stop doing that. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, we could do that. So,
well done.
Yeah,
you're
coachable. You just had to point it out,
dude. You're like, well, dude, I'm a champion. I mean, what do you expect?
What do you want?
Sorry, you didn't get it. Was it the Matt Damon? I'm sorry, this is so hard for you.
Dude, I would say that about everything. I would try to win at everything, and then I would say, well, I'm a champion, dude. I would, it'd be fun.
Well, I mean, I think he does say that. He tries to win at everything, and he is a champion.
Yeah. So awesome. So, Nick, going into the future, like there's going to be some agents that are listening to this that are struggling out there. How did they become a champion? What do you recommend?
Way to put a bow on it.
You like
Mr.
that,
Jason? Yeah.
I think it's stay nimble to the changes that are happening in the marketplace. So yeah, you probably should pay attention to AI. You should probably pay attention to what your respective company.
AI? What's that?
Right. So what your respective company is asking you to do, the model that they want. I do think like one of the things that was interesting was all of a sudden, so we were producing, but compared to when we were $5 million in size, we were producing a certain amount of items. And then, but the people who were writing $10, $15 million in premium that were that size were producing maybe 10, 15% more items. So 3 times our size, but producing 15% more. So they'd get all the accolades and all the praise and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then the company realized like, maybe we should look at what they're producing given to their size. Maybe that would be a better way to look at things. And all of a sudden I was put on every leadership board and, asked to join these committees and stuff like that. Cause they realized that our production compared to our size was just off the charts. That was the company moving in my direction. So I'm a big believer that if you are pretty damn sure of what what should be the right thing to do, it's the whole, plant your tree by the river and say, no, you move, like that whole quote, if you want to look it up, the Captain America approach. So I was pretty sure that production compared to size was important. And the company eventually agreed. And so you don't get paid on the things that everybody already knows. You get paid on the things that people don't know yet, but you're already doing and you're right on, right? So pay attention to what the company wants and where the company is going, like what kind of agency they want you to be, what they want you to look like, what they want your product mix to be like, what they want your leads to look like. I think that's the biggest advice I could give. And then go learn about it. If you don't know much about AI, go learn about it. If you don't know much about business leadership, please go learn about it. There's books, there's YouTube videos, there's things like that are available. Take advantage, I guess, would be the best advice I'd have. So
love it.
It's kind of like I'm going to quote Michael Scott quoting Wayne Gretzky, who says, skate to where the puck is going to be, right?
Well, I think it was you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott.
Yeah.
That's me saying that Wayne Gretzky said that.
No, you say, oh, yeah, because I didn't say that.
Right.
We could have had it where you said what I said.
We could have.
But I blew it. But I'm not going to.
I messed up the intro too, so we got to mess this up too.
Yeah. You know what? And it's life's too short to beat yourself up about it.
No, that was funny, dude. That was good. That was a good intro.
I'll jump off the roof when I get off the call. Look it up in the news later.
All right, Nick, thank you so much for coming on. If we invited you back, would you come back?
Yeah, of course. It's fun.
All right. Love it. Perfect. If anybody wants to reach out, say hi to you, how can they get a hold of you?
Trying to build our Instagram. So if you look up Champion Insurance, just how it sounds, that's great. You can also look me up on Facebook. I don't tend to have a lot of insurance agents as friends on Facebook. I try to keep it clean, but Instagram would be great. So yeah, look up Champion.insurance. That'd be awesome.
Well, you've come a long way.
I verified myself.
You what?
I verified myself, so I pay Meta. So it does seem like my posts get a little more attention, likes, and things like that. I have to post more. We've been really busy, and quite frankly, we have to hire more people too. So it's just been busy.
I was going to say, congrats, man. You've come a long way. And having that many agents is not an easy task. So it's really cool what you've been able to do.
Yeah, that 2017 to 2018, my wife says, like, do you think you can manage 4 people? Like, she's like, I'm not saying you can't, but it's just literally a question. Like, are you going to be able to do that? And now we have 16. So.
That's awesome, man.
But you could, like, imagine if you started with 16, it'd just be, oh man, what a nightmare.
Well, and that's the other thing, right? So, and again, it's another Gary Vee thing, because I'm not going to try to steal credit for it, but it's like, you have to be, no, it's Tom Bilyeu. Tom Bilyeu did this one. He said, you need to be macro patient, that things take time, but you need to be micro impatient. Like, every single moment, how do I get better? What do I need to be doing today? What does the business need? And just give yourself the slack that it takes time over time, but like, don't counteract that without having a sense of urgency right here and now. Is a perfect way to do it. So yeah, the agent owner my staff will even tell you the way I would deal with stress and handle things. Oh, that's a good plug for the last thing. One other thing that I think every agent should start doing, especially if you have the resources to do it, is to hire a mental health coach. We have one, a gentleman named Adam Katowski that we work with, that he talks with the staff. They do phone calls. I'm not involved with them. I'm not even told what they talk about, but it could be personal stuff. It could be business stuff. It could be nicks and asshole stuff. Like, cause
that is a freaking phenomenal idea.
That is a great idea.
So obvious.
We invest a lot in coaches, and dude, I go to therapists for personal and business.
Thank you.
And it does so much.
Yeah. So I offered it to my staff, really, and they flourish. And like, we have had sales increase because of it.
100%.
They get out of their own headspace, or they work through things with him that I'm a shitty therapist. I'm not good at it.
And you don't want to be one. You don't need to be one.
Dude, you're not a listener, you're a doer, right? Like, it's like, and I'm the worst. I fired myself from even interacting with the team. Like, I think I must be autistic. I can't deal with them. Like, I just,
I second that.
Yeah. My wife does too.
But yeah, a mental health coach, I think, like our guy, he's $100 a session. It costs us anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 a month. Again, I have 16 staff. Some people work with them once a month. Sometimes they work with them 4 times a month, sometimes 0 times a month. But whatever the bill is at the end of the month, he just says, I worked with your team this many days. And then I just Zelle him the money, and obviously write it off on the taxes. But it's been great. It's a big help.
That is such a value bomb.
Yeah.
And I could see that. I could see so many people disregarding that.
Oh yeah.
That advice.
And I would have disregarded in 2017 as well.
100%. I would.
I don't need that.
You're operating from what I have to have right now. And it's like, dude, there's no better investment. Like, there's only 2 things in business. It's the metrics and the mindset. Like, that's it. Like, right. So, but like, in order to operate, somebody needs to be clear up here. That's the only way. So like, if you can clear out, like, that's probably the best investment you've ever made. You probably will see returns from that for years to come. Dude. So like, that's freaking awesome. That's
like the respect they get, like for you for that. Right.
Yeah.
Like, they love you. Because it's like, dude,
that's good.
Nobody does that. Nobody. I've never heard of that. And I'm thinking, oh my God, we're in this coaching group that we pay so much to be in, and we get that. Yeah. And it's like one of the best, like, it's one of the reasons, thing. Like, I want to be like, it's the only thing at this moment that keeps me in that is that. And it's like, wow.
And again, I got 16 staff and it costs $1,500 to $2,000. So if you've got 2 staff, you're looking at $200 to $500 a month.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
No
To
brainer.
have all the
no,
issues
man,
of their arguments with their kids or their spouse not come to you, and they're
Whatever.
focused at work, and they're actually selling now. Like, yeah, it's no.
No.
And if they were going to a shrink outside, maybe they get rid of them, and then they whatever.
Yeah,
There's
even
so many
better.
benefits.
Well, and the other one that I like about ours is that he's from the mortgage industry. He's from the banking industry before he's.
Oh, that's
this.
amazing.
But he's like, I know sales. I know what they have to do. He's like, I was talking to him last week, and he's like, yeah, I've role played with some of your staff over some of the stuff you guys are trying to get him to do, like asking for the business. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I'm from the industry, man. I know how it goes. I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
God,
I really do want his contact information.
Of course, yeah.
I'm gonna do it. Yeah.
super cool.
I'll get your number and I'll text it over. I'll
Yeah.
text you. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you,
Well,
brother.
cool.
We
Yeah, thanks,
appreciate it.
guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. And I won't ask another question. We'll do it next time.